Thank you. Yeah.
Hey
All right.
Marie.
Hi, Kat. So today we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to pick the cards. Yay! And I thought about it as we were grounding the cards before. It's interesting because you've been picking the cards so far, but we're entering into this period now, which is a huge rebirth, happening in July. So the nervousness that I'm feeling about picking the cards is actually a good thing because we're all sort of trying something new right now. So I'm really kind of excited. Yeah?
I love it. I'm
Okay.
super excited to do this.
So the deck we're going to use today is this beautiful deck, which I've had for quite some time, and I love it so much. And okay, and we decided to do a reading on the new moon on the 14th in the sign of Cancer, correct?
Yep. And so can
Mhm.
you tell us a little bit about what that means just generally since you
Sure. So the sign of Cancer is a water sign. It's quite sensitive, sometimes even moody, has a lot of kind of sensors out, constantly feeling its environment. And at this time, it's kind of asking us to be, it has to do a lot with home, with family, with really close friends, with like all those relationships that means our safety. Like Cancer, think about Cancer as like, the hard shell and then really mushy on the inside. So it lets very few people in, but once you're in, you're like in that mush, with all what that means. Yeah. So,
And it's so interesting because before we started recording, you were just saying that it's interesting that usually during the summer, where it's Cancer, we also do have that idea of kind of getting back together with family, taking vacations, being with our loved ones. So it's really funny that well, not funny, but that's just interesting
mhm,
that it does go
yeah.
at a time when a lot of people are going to be on vacation with their families.
Right. And all the feelings that come up with that, good, bad, and the ugly, right? We all know.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we're all going through it right now. We're seeing our family, we're having barbecues, we're doing family vacations and all of that is coming up to the surface again in a beautiful way for us to take a look at.
Yeah, I love
Mm,
that.
okay. So I'm gonna shuffle the deck a little bit and see which cards want to be with us here for the new moon
See,
in Cancer. Okay, so two cards. Here we go. We have the Ace of Swords.
beautiful.
Beautiful card, right? Look at how that mind is working,
Wow.
but it's still connected so beautifully to the universe. I love that.
I
And
love
then all
that.
the
That's so
formulas
pretty.
and, you know, things that are going on up there. Amazing.
Yeah, and it's amazing. Oh yeah, so let's see the second card.
Okay, and the
Oh,
second one is the Queen of Cups.
wow, what beautiful, cool cards to go together too.
And let's hold them both up.
Especially because the swords have so much more to do with our mind and then the cups with our
Mm-hmm.
feelings. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like balancing both of those. You really see these two women kind of in different parts of ourselves. So
Yes. But I love how
um
they both have their face to the sky. And
mm,
they both have this like energy shooting off of them in such a beautiful way. And then you have the water there from the woman, sitting in water. So that's the Cancer. I feel like the cards are coming up to kind of tell us that it's a time for balance, the balance between the mind and the heart so
yeah.
the energy of your heart center, your emotions, as well as the energy of your mind and how beautiful that can be and how we can be in both places at the same time.
Yeah, I love that and seeing the balance and I especially because the Ace of Swords is also often about clarity and seeing clearly and so
Mm.
sometimes even seeing clearly through our emotions or maybe
Mhm.
let's say seeing clearly when you're getting together with family and sometimes you might see the trigger much more clearly and say, "Oh, wow, I'm being
Yeah.
triggered or I'm feeling this emotion." And we're always talking about the triggers, but maybe there's also seeing maybe some kind of joy come up or love or nostalgia for something.
Mhm.
That's also, and just seeing it so much clearly and then balancing your feelings so that you actually feel them completely. And it's
Mhm.
funny that the woman is sitting in water because right before you looked online and saw those three those three tips. What can you
Yeah.
remind us what those
Yes,
are?
we can. So we just wanted to quickly kind of be like, okay, it's the full moon in Cancer, just verify. And new moon, sorry, because we're so
Oh yeah.
confused about time right now. So we just wanted to, and then we saw three beautiful tips from this woman, and I just wanted to share that. So the number one was to take a dip in water, that what this woman is actually doing. How can you, because Cancer is a water sign, so how can you actually submerge yourself in water and receive information that way, the way she's doing? Because water is intelligent, it has constantly information from the universe. And then the second one was to slow down and reflect, which is a beautiful thing to do when you're in all of your emotions, to kind of really slow down and be be in slowness. And then the third one was to do a tarot reading. And that's why we wanted to share it, right?
Yeah, and you can either do a tarot reading watching things like us on YouTube, but you can also
Hmm.
do it for yourself if you have your own deck. It's such a
Yeah,
wonderful way
yeah,
of just connecting with your emotions and your thoughts and kind
yeah.
of making a mix. What I love about tarot is that sometimes actually somebody I was working with mentioned that. He
Mm.
said, "Wow, I loved this reading because it almost helped him put words on the feelings he had or the thoughts that were kind of
Yeah.
just like happening. But when you see the cards, sometimes they help you like
Mm.
be like, oh, that's what I'm feeling or that's what I'm thinking. And so it's kind of like, again, as you said, finding the balance between sometimes these things that are almost, we can't put words on them.
Yeah.
How can you put a word on a feeling or a thought?
Yeah.
But sometimes having an image just helps
Hmm.
you think about them differently.
Absolutely. And I think now is maybe time to do a little release, that we're also thinking about doing a video like this where we actually share how to connect to your deck, how to do an energetic tarot reading, and how to kind of get that information through. So that's
Yeah,
coming up in the pipeline. So keep a lookout for that.
I
But so
love that.
back to
Yeah.
this beautiful reading. Um, I was looking at it a little bit more closely, and you see it's like I love the spiral staircase also because it's picking up, it's like it's almost like black and white colors of this woman here, but she also has this like beautiful mind that's constantly expanding and constantly like reaching higher and higher into the universe. And it's in this beautiful shape of, I feel like it's in the golden ratio, the way everything grows and everything expands. And so she's just, there's no limitation to what she can achieve when she tunes deeply into her heart and into her mind.
I love that. And you know what I'm noticing too is that there's that spark of light going through the thing and
Mm.
it seems to be connected to the other card. Yeah, that light goes straight up
Hmm.
into her head or vice versa.
Yeah,
And it just is like this kind of this mixing because
yeah.
I do think sometimes in the spiritual world I often think it's about like, okay, don't listen to your mind or your like
Hmm.
get more in touch with your feelings and your intuition, and I do really agree with that, but I
Yeah.
don't think we should just put our mind away.
Hmm.
When it's mixed and working together. For sure, our mind has a tendency sometimes to overthink or to go into spirals, kind of that way. But you
Yeah.
can have good spirals too,
Hmm.
you know.
Absolutely.
So I
I
really love
agree.
that
And we
about
tend to
having a
like
mix.
diss the ego, right? Everybody wants to get rid of their ego, but like, that's also what's keeping us alive. So it's important not to, if you're only this, if you're only like sitting in water and just kind of praying and just being at one with the universe, which is a beautiful thing to do, but you're not in this at all, then it's really hard to live on this earth. We kind of
Yeah,
need to have a little bit of both, and we need to be honoring both. Not just we obviously are bringing in the feminine at this point in time, that
yeah.
energy, but we also need to remember that we need to keep the masculine energy, because if we completely move into the feminine, then it's like we just get lost in that, and that's not good either. So to have a little bit of
That's
both.
why. I
Mm,
think that's what you mentioned right at the beginning, which is
yeah.
I think this new moon is also just calling on us to have, instead of It's finding balance and not saying this one's good and this one's bad. Again, that's actually duality. It's
Yes.
about, again, oneness, including the other, the ego, and actually I love it. My mom says this. She's like, we came to this earth to be in our bodies.
That's
And
right.
and if we chose to come on this earth and not just be, because before that
Mm-hmm.
we were just
Mm-hmm.
the oneness and everything. So it's a part of the experience is the separateness and the mind and the ego. And
Yeah.
it's not, again, letting that control dominate,
Mm-hmm.
but it's finding how we can actually use that to for the experience which it is supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And so the question is then, why is it coming up right now to give us this guidance in this beautiful season of Cancer that's very much emotional? It's coming up as a little reminder, as you said, well, don't completely forget about the other part. Be rational when you're hanging out with your parents and they're bugging the heck out of you, or your brother or your sister. Be mindful and say, well, okay, so we think differently, we're developing differently. It's fine. They have the right to be the way they are as well. They have the right to have their own thoughts and their own emotions, and so do you. And just balancing those relationships as well and being more open to the others being different from you.
I love that. I also think when you said that, I had a new idea come because the Ace of Swords is also about clarity, but it's also about a new idea, some
Mm,
fresh way of looking at it. So I sometimes think, especially, like, especially with family, we do tend to sometimes feel like, I know when I go back home, I feel like I'm like, wait, like I'm not this person anymore. So why am
yeah.
I back into this? And I think maybe there's something about something new.
Yeah.
Maybe, for example, if you're feeling old or old emotions or old ways
Hmm.
of being coming back, it's to think about it and see if you can see it in a new light, a new direction. How can you focus on something else or even change the action, Because like if you're always acting or always responding to a certain thing in a same way, things are probably going to have the same outcome.
Outcome.
But
Yeah.
if you change one slight thing, you might go down this completely new path and a new relationship might develop between the same people you've always been with.
Absolutely. And then you can fully step into this situation where she's sitting on a throne and there's
Mm.
actually a crown up here. So she
Oh,
truly is
wow.
the Queen of Cups. She truly is divinely connected to both the sky, the water, herself. And she then has the ability to fully kind of channel and be in oneness. So,
Mm.
yeah.
Love that.
Mm. All right, so
Well,
let's pull a card as a message for, how can we stay in this balanced state in this season of Cancer when our emotions so easily can run away with us because we're
I love
in this
that.
kind of, emotional mix. Okay, so
That's
let's
great.
see. All right, two cards wanted to come up. One is the Six of Swords, which is a beautiful
Ooh,
card.
wow.
Look how she's being pulled forward. I think that's just amazing.
That is amazing. I love that. I've never seen this deck, so it's really
Yeah,
fun. I have seen it, but I've never worked with it. So I
yeah,
love just seeing the
absolutely
imagery.
beautiful. And then we have the Knight of Swords. He's running for his motorbike.
Oh, interesting with the crows, the
Mm-hmm.
crow coming back, and actually the crow is also leading the way in
Mm-hmm.
both of them.
I know. I've actually never pulled these two cards. They're just absolutely magnificent. Look at that.
Wow. It's funny too because they almost seem like they're going in different directions.
Yeah,
Is that
right.
that's the Knight of Swords? That's the
This
Knight
is
of
a
Swords?
Knight of Swords, yeah.
Okay.
And then the
Knight of
Six
Swords
of
and the Six of
Swords.
Swords.
Yeah.
So two swords. Interesting.
So
And they're
one
pulling
is coming
different
towards
directions.
us in a very big way, and the other one is running away or running towards something else. So how do
So
you balance that, right? How do you balance that in your life where at the same time, maybe you're in a place where you don't want to be and you're trying to get somewhere, but at the same time, you probably need to deal with where you are at this moment in time also. So your emotions can run away with you so easily, which I think these cards are depicting in such a beautiful way. Your emotions can even pull you along.
Yeah.
right? It's like
Yeah.
you're not even in charge of what's really happening there. You're just being pulled along in that card.
Yeah, I love and the Six of Swords, what I love about the Six of Swords too is it talks about transitions. It talks
Mm,
about going from choppy waters to more calm and like a place of like but you're still carrying your baggage. So you're still in a moment of movement and going from something that was maybe less what you wanted to a place of something that is going to be more in alignment with you, but you're still in that moment where it's changing.
So you're
And
still
so,
aligning and you're still balancing, right?
yeah,
Which is
yeah,
exactly where we find ourselves now, astrologically speaking. We're still kind of being reborn, and we're in this space where we're in the transition between what we used to be and where we're going. And I feel like
yeah.
the tipping point it's really now in July. So we feel a little torn apart and we feel a little wobbly, like an infant,
Yeah.
stumbling along. And tell us about the Knight of Swords.
So the Knight of Swords is often like this one's such an interesting representation of that.
Mm,
Uh because the Knight of Swords is often about kind of being like a warrior or a Jedi and like needing to like say what's on your mind, but not
mm,
necessarily having the kind of like wisdom or the experience of knowing that sometimes, even if it is your truth, it's not actually the best way to get things done. So sometimes
mm,
it is. But it's like, for example, sometimes even if you are very sure of your truth in your mind, because swords have to do with our own personal truths and our beliefs,
mhm.
but sometimes it could be that so it's interesting seeing these two because but the knight is learning,
Yeah.
and recently the Knight of Swords has been coming a lot up for me because it can also be about communication and getting your ideas out. And sometimes
Yeah.
as we're learning, because the knights are the not the oldest of the court cards,
Mm-hmm.
they're not perfect and they're kind of still in that learning phase, but I think it's necessary sometimes. Like sometimes you have to kind of say what's on your mind without necessarily being perfect, let's say.
So I'm kind of reshuffling these
Oh
cards a
yeah.
little bit because of what you just said. It's the expressing of your beautiful insights in your mind that you're receiving right now, and also being careful, over here to really balance your emotions and staying safe in the boat, not
And it's so
moving too
funny that
much.
you did that because it's so much water in those two sides
Yeah,
cards. You have the
yeah.
water on these times, even if, like swords are more like don't necessarily have to do with water as much as cups, but it's funny in that card there's that water
Mm-hmm.
aspect.
Yeah.
Um yeah, and
So
it's
beautiful.
so beautiful.
And there's so
So
much movement in the cards that we pulled at the end, and there's not that much movement in the two first ones, right? So
right. You're
being
right.
fully aware of like being still and moving at the same time, not being afraid to stay still because you're still moving forward. You don't have to always be running like this guy, always expressing yourself, always proclaiming that I'm right, but you
Yeah.
can be in stillness and you can be moving even though you're in stillness. Kind
Yeah.
of that powerful meditation where they do, where it's called being, it's like a movement type of meditation. You're sitting still, but you're still moving forward. When they
Yeah.
do that a lot in Asia, and I love that.
I love that. I was also getting something else when you said that because I
Mm,
think it really depends on where people are in their journeys.
mm,
Because, for example, from what we got, like I think in the first one, it's like a new idea. So let's say you in your family or in your friends or whatever, usually you are the person who says everything, and then that has its effect. Well,
mm,
maybe in your situation, it would be good to see, step back and say, you know what, now I'm going to actually try something new this time, and I'm not going to say. But if you're somebody, let's say like me, who in the
mm,
past has not been saying things that are on your mind,
mm-hmm.
then it is, even if you're doing it imperfectly, sometimes it can be good to actually start expressing yourself. So I think the newness, it kind of depends on where people are and what's their situation.
Right.
Because it depends on like, and it's almost like saying, this is how I've always done it in the past. Do I like the outcome? If I don't like the outcome, then how can I change it to do it a tiny bit differently? It doesn't have to be a huge difference, you know?
Right.
It can just be little slight things and thinking, oh, okay. And
Totally.
see
And
how that
there
goes.
doesn't even have to be anything wrong with it. It's like me pulling the cards today instead of you, there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with the previous experience, but now it's something different. Very slight adjustment changes the dynamic, really beautiful.
Yeah.
Something new
Yeah.
comes out. Yeah.
Yeah. I love
Mm.
that. And I loved, honestly, the 2 second cards with really one coming and the other leaving was
Mm.
so, and again,
Yeah.
with the crows, I love how
Yeah.
that happens in
Yeah.
tarot with the images come and there's something I think about maybe, I can't even remember what the question was for what we pulled the cards, but
Well, so to real like we pulled these cards first, right?
yeah.
So to kind of realize how can we how can we create this balance? How can we
Oh
be
yeah.
helped in this time? And so I think what these cards are saying is also maybe be patient with yourself because you're still moving, you're still changing, and you can do very small changes like we just talked about. Express yourself when you usually wouldn't, or pull the tarot card if you used to let someone else do it, or
Yeah.
don't do the dishes, let someone else do the dishes. Whatever it is, very small, slight adjustments make huge differences.
And yeah, and also I love that. I agree that it's like small adjustments can have huge impacts down the line. And
Mm,
I am also getting for those last two cards too, it's just remembering that it's like one step forward, one step back. It's and also that that is still progress. And that in a way, as you're finding your balance,
mm-hmm.
it's not always gonna be perfectly aligned, but
Right.
eventually it will kind of
Yeah.
you move forward, then you go in the opposite direction
Mm-hmm.
um, until you find what works. And a lot of I find that like what's scary sometimes is that we expect it to be perfect right away, or we expect it to be balanced right away. But to
Mm-hmm.
find balance, you have to adjust, you have to
Right.
move a bit until you
And
find the balance.
and also because we're alive, we're never going to be completely in balance. We're going to continually change, and then there's a new way of balance too. But I also wanted to express that sometimes it's okay to let things pull you along, and
I
sometimes
love
it's
that.
okay to sprint towards something. So not
Mm,
always being the one who's in the passenger seat, and not always being the hero who's running for, his motorcycle to take off, but allow both of those things to happen. Sometimes you're the one who's driving, sometimes there's another person driving, and that's okay too.
I love that. That's so cool too, especially if we're saying that thing about just slightly adjusting. If you're
Mm,
used to always being the driver, maybe step back and see what it's like when other people do it, even if they do it imperfectly, and even if they don't do it all the way you want it to be. Just see if you can let it do. And the opposite, if you're always in the passenger seat, try to see just one little thing, like,
yeah,
let's go to this restaurant, or let's I want to go to the pool today when everybody wants to go on a hike. I don't know.
yeah,
Just
yeah.
see what it's like to do
To
those slight
choose. Yeah,
who's
absolutely. I
driving.
think the first message was for me, let someone else drive sometimes.
Yeah, me too. That one's for me too. And it's and let it not be perfect, because like
Yeah.
sometimes like we want to do things we feel like we want to do it ourselves just because like we know it'll be done the way we want it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's actually nice to have somebody else do it, even if it's not at all,
Mm-hmm.
done the way you want it.
Yeah. And have trust and faith in that, become really mushy about that. Just like go deeply and allow people in. Yeah, because that's what cancer is about too. Allow that imperfect, expression of yourself where you are kind of a little weak and soft,
Hmm.
possibly. Mm.
Well, this has been awesome. This is not going to be the last time you pull the cards. I think it's
Okay.
great. I think it's
Thank
really
you.
fun.
Yeah. Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much, Kat, for this reading.
Thank you so much.
Take
See you
care.
soon.
Bye.
Bye.